Let's have a conversation. Tell me what you think about the issues of the world. What kind of spice you wanna be? Tell me where you wanna travel. Do you believe in luxury? What's your hidden passion? What makes you so unique? Conversations with Nicole. Conversations with Nicole. Conversations with Nicole. Conversations with Nicole.
Greetings, I am Nicole Everett, the host of Conversations with Nicole, and today we are on location at the Tallahassee Ballet in the costume room. You see all this fabulousness behind us, and my very, very special guest is Ms. Lauren Anderson, the first African-American principal ballerina with the Houston Ballet. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
So, you know, I'm super excited to have you here because last year I saw a post on Instagram of you walking through the doors of the ballet here in Tallahassee, and I was like, who is this woman? I've got to go meet her. So I immediately came down and did a brief live video with you, but I said, when you come back next year, you've got to be on the show. So,
And I said, of course.
yes, you did.
It was fun talking with you. That was great.
Indeed. So give us a little history about you.
Wow. Okay. So I'm a native Houstonian. I started dancing at the Houston Ballet Academy when I was 7. Didn't like ballet when I started. Didn't know that it was going to end up being the love of my life. But I kept dancing, and I took violin, and my parents were like, we can't afford lessons in both. You need to pick one. And I chose ballet because I figured I could always pick up the violin later. Can't. Then graduated from high school, auditioned for the Houston Ballet, got in, which wasn't expected, and then stuck with it. In 1990, became the first African-American prima ballerina of a major ballet company at that time.
That's huge.
And then,
When did you know you wanted to be a ballerina, though?
well, I kind of decided I liked it at about 8 or 9.
Okay.
But by the time I was about 13, 12 or 13, it had taken a hold of me and decided that you're going to do me, right? And there's a time that's like middle school, right? So my parents, as parents do, went in and said, okay, is she going to be good enough to be a ballerina? And
Because we paying this money.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
And Mr. Stevenson, Ben Stevenson, who was the director at the time, said, well, actually, no. But she has a good singing voice and has a good personality. Maybe she should think about musical theater. Broadway will probably be her niche. But keep taking ballet, because it's a good, it's good training, and you'll have an advantage as a dancer. Well, I was devastated, but my dad came out and said, look, you're going to keep taking these classes for this year because we paid for them. We'll visit it next year. And the thing that changed my life was this show called Alice in Wonderland was our spring show. And every kid in the Houston Ballet Academy is in the spring show.
Okay.
And I found out I was Alice. And I was like, I can be Alice. Alice is white, And the director, Ben Stevenson, said, no, darling, the only color in art is on a canvas. You are a dancer, and dancers dance.
Love it.
And after that, I was like, I'm doing it.
Okay.
Whether I'm the lead ballerina or the lead dance, whatever, I'm doing it.
You're Alice.
I'm Alice.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So, principal in 1990.
Yep.
And you retired.
Yes, retirement does come early, earlier than what you would think. I'm not just sitting at home chilling.
Right.
So dancers are athletes. So the average age of retirement for a ballerina is really 29, and the average age for a male dancer is 26.
Okay.
I made it to 41.
Whoa.
That's
That's
by the grace of God.
Yes.
Well, and then also it has to do with training and how well you take care of your body and all that kind of stuff. And then I have been teaching since 1987 on the side, like Ben Stevenson. He's my mentor, man. He was the man that made me, broke me down, built me back up.
Okay.
Basically.
Nice.
And he said, in 87, I'll never forget, darling, you're teaching in the summer intensive. And I went, I don't know how to teach. He goes, how many classes have you had? And I said, well, millions. He goes, exactly, you'll work it out. And I was like, no, but he had an eye for who could do what.
Don't you love those type of people?
I know, because I couldn't choreograph my way out of a paper bag. I can't create anything from scratch. So
You couldn't then.
I couldn't then, and I'm not that great. I don't have that gene, you know. But I can fix things. I can set your ballets on people. I can make what you do to them look good. I can polish things up really well. And I have an eye for teaching, which I didn't know, which he knew. And so I've been teaching since 87. Well, I've been giving classes since 87. I've really been teaching since about 97. It probably takes 10 years to create a really good teacher.
Okay.
And so now that's what I do. That's what I'm doing here in Tallahassee. It's teaching in the summer intensive. And I love it. I teach all over the nation, all over the world, actually. I've done it in Paris, everywhere.
Oh, wow.
But I love it. I thought being a ballerina was the thing I was supposed to be. It has given me an opportunity and open doors to where I can teach anywhere I want. But I love teaching. Education's my thing.
Okay. What's a typical day in the life of a ballerina look like?
Okay, it's a 9 to 5. It is not, you don't just come down on the weekend and practice every once in a while. It is 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. You wake up, you eat or whatever, get yourself together mentally. 10 o'clock ballet class every day, 10 to 11:30 or 11:45. 15-minute break, 3 hours of rehearsal, hour for lunch, 3 hours of rehearsal. So you're in toe shoes. You're training like an Olympian for years until you stop dancing.
Wow.
And I mean, but then there's a performance day, and your performance day is actually longer because you have class and a couple hours of rehearsal. Then you have performance and rehearsals and all that. So and generally like the Houston Ballet is union, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
It sounds like it is.
It's more time spent in the studio practicing than on the stage performing.
Okay. Now, as a young ballerina, who did you admire?
Virginia Johnson. Virginia Johnson was the ballerina with the Dance Theater of Harlem. Excuse me, with Dance Theater of Harlem. And, you know, I'll never forget being 9 years old and seeing Dance Theater of Harlem for the first time. Like, you don't know that there aren't any black ballerinas until you see one, right? So I didn't realize there wasn't a black ballerina in my company. I didn't even think about it until I sat in that audience and saw one run across the stage, and I was like, and my mom said I was on the edge of my seat the whole time.
I could just visualize
and
that.
I was just like, and I couldn't believe it. And then I saw Virginia Johnson and Creole Giselle, and I thought, I got goosebumps. Look at that. I thought, wow, I could be her.
Yes, you could be.
I can be her, you know, so that was a big thing for me. And now I have young ballerinas going, I just want to be you. Misty Copeland said that to me. We were hanging out.
Oh my gosh, how neat is that?
We were in Houston, so she came down and we did a talk back basically on stage. And she's like, you got to do it with me. I'm like, girl, they see me all the time. So anyway, we did it together. And she said, you know, the first time I met you, I was a soloist. American Ballet Theater had come to Houston. We were taking class. You came up to me, congratulated me. It was a year I retired. So this didn't stick in my mind because so much was going on. I was leaving the one thing I loved. And she said, you were so sweet and so gracious and so inspiring and supportive. And I have been supportive. You know, we see, you know, the up and coming.
Absolutely.
So I went to her first Swan Lake. Nice. And I got to give her flowers and all that stuff. Yeah, it was great.
Nice.
It was great.
That's rich.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break right here. But when we come back, I want to hear more about the prima donna ballerina of the Houston Ballet, the first African-American. Yes, and you know you got to do that little pose thing.
Oh, the pose, yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
All right. Stay tuned for more conversations. Welcome back to Conversations with Nicole. If you're just joining me, my special guest is Ms. Lauren Anderson, the first African-American principal dancer with the Houston Ballet. So Lauren, before the break, we were talking about when you wanted to be a ballerina and your experience with Misty Copeland. So tell me in your words, your thoughts about what it's meant to you to be the first African-American principal dancer with the Houston Ballet.
Well, when it was happening, it was just happening. I was just a dancer that was excited to be promoted to principal dancer. When I retired, and on my off days, and I'll explain that in a minute, but when I retired, it meant a lot. And it meant more because I realized that there weren't very many of me. And the New York Times had just done an article that said something like, "Where have all the black swans gone?" Dancing out of Harlem was just folding. Back then, of course, it's restarted and revamped itself, but it was just folding. And these beautiful dancers, I mean, beautiful dancers, couldn't get jobs. I'm like, why are they not? You know, I even asked Ben Stevenson, the director of the ballet. I said, okay, so what's up? There's this girl named Alicia Graff. There's this person, this person, this person. He goes, I don't have any principal spots. These people are too good for me to put them in a corps de ballet. So I knew that there was definitely a deficit. I've been a bridge to the community while I was dancing. I can be a bridge to the community while I'm not dancing. I got into education and community engagement.
Which is what you currently do.
Which is what I currently do. I was speaking and teaching and representing. I did this whole, the Vestris, August Vestris in Paris had this thing about why there are no black dancers in the Paris Opera. So I went over there and did a whole thing with that and teaching because they were not used to seeing, for whatever reason. I know Alvin Ailey's toured there. I know Dancing of Harlem's toured there. They were, quote unquote, not used to seeing anyone that wasn't of Celtic origin doing ballet.
All right.
And that was their feeling. And people kept asking me, I said, well, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. Ballet is a European art form. It did come from Europe. And, you know, in the courts, where were the black people in the courts? They weren't. All right. So it makes sense, but since time is changing, things are changing, it doesn't make sense to say that they're not capable of learning it. Everybody has to learn it. You don't come out of your mama turned out like a duck. You just don't. So the blessing was what happened with Arthur Mitchell here. Because if it hadn't been for that happening with Dancing of Harlem, I wouldn't have ever danced.
Gotcha.
And then now there's social media. You see things as it's happening. And I was talking to Missy about this. I said, back in my day, we danced. Someone had to report it. Then they had to edit it, print it. Then that had to go out. And that went out 2 months after it was printed.
Yes.
So we didn't find out what was going on. Like
way
Creole Giselle opened before I ever, before I even knew it was happening.
Right.
So now you turn on your phone, you flip like this, and you have access to what's happening right now live.
You do.
So it's kind of been this, I think it's helped times and evolution quicken with social media and everything. And I always say, everybody's gonna be beige anyway, right? Everybody's mixing. It's all, you know, you mix up black and white, you get cream, right?
Right.
I'm just saying, you mix up, everyone's gonna be beige, so it's not gonna be an issue pretty soon.
Right, yeah.
Evolution's gonna handle that.
Now, there's a cost associated, financial costs specifically.
Then there's that.
Yes. Is that cost prohibitive for?
Yes.
Yes.
So you think about how expensive dance is. The lessons are expensive, the clothes, they wear out, we grow. This is something you have to do as a child. The awesome thing is there's support in the arts, more so it's coming back around.
Is it?
Because
Okay.
we're seeing how important the arts is to education, right? To cognitive skills, to social emotional learning.
Yes.
I mean, it's just, we will have a better society if everyone gets the arts.
So there are some programs in place to help offset some of the costs, especially for Black and brown children that, you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's an issue for.
It's an issue.
Gotcha.
With getting kids there and paying for the classes and whatever. So in education community engagement in Houston, there's a program. The director has Stanton Welch, who's the director of the Houston Ballet now, and our executive director, Jim Nelson. They said, we want the company and the academy to look like the fabric of the community. Well, if you don't do something about it at the top with that, it's not going to happen. We've been blessed with quite a few programs that help with that. One is called Chance to Dance. We have first and second graders that we teach beginning ballet classes to, and then give scholarships to at the end of their course.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's tremendous. Yeah. Are there any other Lauren Andersons out there doing what you do in terms of the connection to the community, the outreach?
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so before, I didn't start this. I didn't even start it at the Houston Ballet. I happened to retire, and they had someone then a full-time ballerina in place that they could have, jumpstart this program and the way it has progressed. I would say, the way I saw Dance Theater of Harlem, my daddy pulled me out of school to see the lecture demo that they were doing when they were performing. The way Alvin Ailey does outreach when they go to different places. A lot of companies go and do outreach when they go. In other words, when I say outreach, they go for free to a school or give master classes or lecture demos or something.
And that's good because that exposure is very key.
Exposure is key. Let's activate the mind to even want to think about it and possibly, want to do it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And then there's that putting it on the kids. So there's a lot.
Good deal. All right, now I follow you on social media, and you are a foodie.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So we gotta, even though we're here in the costume room.
Yes, we're in the costume room, and yeah, I was a dancer, I'm 54, so I haven't danced for a while.
You look great now.
Now, all those desserts I taste, I don't eat the whole thing. I taste them.
She tastes it. On social media, you do these critiques of this food, and it's either
it is
thumbs
good
up or thumbs down.
Look, I'm honest.
You are very honest.
I'm honest.
All right. So what's your favorite either type of food or dish?
Okay, I love sugar. I'm a sugar addict. I am. Okay, key lime pie is my favorite pie.
Key lime pie.
But I went to this restaurant last night, and I put that spoon in, and I was like, oh, this is real key lime. Because I taste key lime pie everywhere, all over the country. It was so good. It was so good.
Okay. All right. So if you could describe your life as a flavor or a spice, what would it be?
Ooh.
Miss Foodie.
Ooh, I don't know. Because, I've gone through a lot. I got a lot of different stories.
And we only tapping the surface.
We're tapping the surface. So I'm going to have to say some cayenne.
Some cayenne.
That would be my life.
That would be your life. Okay, so tell me why.
It's taken some turns that you do not expect. And cayenne doesn't always taste the same. It depends on what you put it in and what you put it with.
That's true.
And my life has done lefts and rights and ups and downs. And I'm grateful for all of them because it makes me, because it doesn't get any better than it is right now, and I truly feel that way. So I'm kind of grateful.
Okay.
And it's funny I even said that because I don't really like spicy hot. I like spicy flavor.
Okay, and it's colorful too.
It is colorful.
And you are colorful.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Well, we're going to take a break right here.
Okay.
All right, stay tuned for more conversations. On today's CWN Medical Moment, we are talking with Heather Lincicome of the TMH Behavioral Health Center, and we're talking about substance abuse. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. So when is substance abuse likely to happen?
We find that by the time adolescents reach senior year, they're 70% more likely than other age groups to have engaged in alcohol use. They're half as likely to engage in some sort of illegal substance use. 40% is likely to have tried cigarettes, and 20% is likely to have engaged in some sort of prescription drug use for non-medical purposes. So we're looking at starting between about the age of 12 to 17.
Wow. Yeah. And is it more prevalent with certain populations?
At this point, it's all populations, and there are several risk factors, and we can go into that that would create higher prevalence of drug use or engaging earlier onset of substance use. But as of right now, between the ages of 12 and 17 across all racial domains tends to be pretty stable.
Okay, what about male versus female?
You're likely to see more male use.
Okay.
You're likely to also see, and we can get into this in a little bit, a disproportionate number of youth entering treatment because of involvement in the juvenile justice population. So roughly about 10% that receive treatment between the ages of 12 and 17 that enter treatment happen to be more likely males.
When does use turn into abuse?
Okay, good question. It's not as prevalent in adolescence that you see use become true addiction. When you get to the point of addiction, you're talking about more of a biological dependency on that substance, meaning that you'll see kids that will, the idea that they have the willpower to just say no kind of goes out the window. So you're going to see kids that don't have the ability to say no, that may have other issues in their life that, such as poor grades, higher prevalence of mental health issues and things like that, that could be key indicators of addiction.
Okay. Once there's an addiction identified, how can you treat it?
Well, it's very important with kids that you get a full mental health evaluation. Oftentimes with kids that are engaging in substance use, you see a co-occurring mental health disorder as well. Sometimes it's that kids initially start engaging in substance use because they're dealing with depression, because they're dealing with anxiety, they're dealing with things like ADHD. It's really important for people to understand, though, that you can't treat one versus the other. You have to treat them both simultaneously. So when it comes to kids, and sometimes even with substance use, it's difficult to be able to diagnose the mental health disorder, but it's very important that you engage them holistically, that you look at family histories, that you look at traumas, and that you're treating both together.
Well, thank you for taking time to talk with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Stay tuned for more conversations. Welcome back to Conversations with Nicole. We are about to close out, but before we do, I want to ask you, Lauren, about what do you believe is your greatest accomplishment to date?
Wow, my son, Lawrence Turner, he's a musician.
Okay. How old?
He's 16 now, and I didn't think I was gonna have kids because, you know, you dance, and I had him very late in life. He was a miracle baby. I think just, you know, as a parent, you want to bring a child into this world and hopefully they become a citizen that everyone could be proud of. Mm-hmm. And he is. He's awesome.
That's great.
He's awesome.
That's great.
And dance-wise, I just think my greatest accomplishment was staying true to just who I am, because it's hard. Mm-hmm. It's hard. You want to look like everyone else, especially when you're young. You want to look like everyone else, and this is a visual. Everything is visual. You always have to be in a nice line and present yourself as. But I have to say, I think I was pretty me, just Lauren from the tray the whole time.
That's rich. That's good.
And I'm still me. And I can't say at some point in time I didn't lose myself in it. I did a little bit trying to figure out who am I? Mm-hmm. But the awesome thing about that, and I tell young people this, you don't have to figure out who you are. You are just who you are. You don't have to figure it out. You will happen. You will develop. You will evolve. It will be. Yeah. That finding yourself is crazy, because then you just start searching for stuff and you start going in ways that you can't get out of and that you don't even really want.
Yes. Absolutely. All right. And then any advice that you would give to a young dancer that wants to get into the ballet industry?
If you want to dance, dance. Don't let anybody take that away. Dance. But I'm going to tell you, once you get in here, don't compare yourself to anybody else, because nobody can do you like you. There is no other you. There's no DNA like yours. You know, you can point your feet. Everyone learns first position, and technique is technique, and it's pretty absolute. But nobody can do you. You are not.
So be authentic.
Authentic and organic.
All right. Love it. Well, thank you for spending some time with us today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us on Conversations with Nicole, where we're connecting the communities through conversations. We'll see you next time. All right. We got to do this little,
the little pose
yes,
thing.
yes, this little